everybody.
Unbelievable.
Hi,
Georgia.
Phil.
Hi, Georgia. That's another
Hi,
one.
Lisa Cheney. Hi, Lisa
Hi.
Cheney.
Rita.
Hi, Terry. Terry
Hi, Rita.
Powley.
And there's Mimi Melanius, who went to the Institute of Design with me, my best friend at the Institute of Design. She just got married to Hunt, another classmate, and they're up in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. There's Dottie Allen, my best friend from Williamsburg Junior High School. We were both forwards on the basketball team. Such a brain, so smart. Here, like in 50, I don't know how many years, right, Dottie? It's amazing. I can't
How
hear.
many years are you at the gallery, Phyllis?
I think Mira Thompson invited me to apply, and I got accepted in Ronnie in 2010.
Do you remember how many years ago that was?
Well, 2010 from 2021 is quite a while ago. And I said to Mira, I don't have any paintings to show. She said, well, Phil, you have 2 years, you know? So that motivated me. And being a member of the gallery, Ronnie, you probably know too, has motivated me and like organized my life so that every couple of years or 3, I have a purpose to show, and it helps motivate me. Ah, there's Terry Fabi. Hi, Terry. Hi. There's Brody from Washington, D.C. Who's on the right? Oh, Beth from Florida. Beth is the first art director designer I ever hired in my agency. And I don't know, we're like soul sisters in art. She came in one day to my agency. She looked at a Milton Avery on the wall, and she said,
and I never left.
and she never left. And she said, Phil, you can do that. And I, just.
It's true.
Thank you, Beth. And I
My
left
pleasure.
my agency, and I've been painting full time. But this gallery is a cooperative. So there's not about big business and egos, and tremendously supportive. We're right in Chelsea. We're holding on. We're still there. And gee, more people are coming on. And who else came on? There's Martha, who's with the Wave Martha. She's our manager and going to navigate this happening. It's the first time for me. So it's going to be a happening. And there's going to be a question answer period. So anybody can ask, why in the world are you doing this? Whatever.
You're looking great, Phyllis.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm happy. I mean, I can't believe, only a few people can come into the gallery, and that's wonderful because in a way, the paintings up close, they look very different than, I can't see myself. That's excellent. They look so different up close than in an image, but yet in a way, having this span of people from all walks of life, I mean, it's pretty amazing from elementary school, I guess junior high and high school and college, and my family. I don't have too much family. My friends are my family, and now some of my family on my dad's side are here, and that's wonderful. And who else is here? Anybody else want to say hello before we get going? Oh, there's more people. Hey, Melissa's here. Melissa's in the gallery. Hi, Melissa. Susan, who else do I see? Mira Thompson.
Hi.
Purple magenta top. Mira.
Hi, Phyllis. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. We've always had shows together, Mira, and this is the first time I've had a solo show.
Oh, and you have so much to show, which is, it's as it should be.
Thank you. Mira's been so
Didn't Phyllis take a class from you once?
Oh, eons ago.
Yeah, I'm remembering that.
Eons ago,
I left
yeah.
my agency, and I got all these catalogs from schools, and there was a course that said drawing with the masters at the Met. I mean, that sounded like amazing. And Mira Thompson, it was like Christmas every Thursday. We'd go and we'd sit in a different part of the museum and draw. It was extraordinary, Mira, and that's how we got to know each other. And I took a second course.
Absolutely. And
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the reception of Cosmos, a personal journey of Phyllis Chillingworth. And we're very, very happy to have all of her friends and family here and some of our gallery members as well. My name is Ronnie Sherman Ramos, and I am partly or half of the presidency of the gallery. And that means a lot to me. I've been a member of the gallery for approximately 7 years, and Phyllis is a little bit longer than that, I believe. The gallery is called Atlantic Gallery. It's in a landmarks building in the heart of Chelsea, right off of the High Line. And for those of you lucky enough to have actually visited it during this show or any other show, you will notice that it's a very beautiful, beautiful gallery with wonderful space and wonderful walls and a wonderful manager. That's Martha. And we are so happy to have been in existence for more than 40 years. The gallery is an artist-run collective with approximately 16 paying members. That means that we all contribute to the running of the gallery, paying rent and all the things that are around the responsibilities of gallery owners. The gallery started out in Brooklyn. That's why it's called Atlantic Gallery, because it started out on Atlantic Avenue. And after that, it had a journey and moved several places until it finally moved to Chelsea. This is its second home in Chelsea. We've been here for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. And all of our members are artists in their own right from very different disciplines, from very different places. We have a member who is from Paris. We have a member now who lives in Italy. We have 2 members from California. We formerly had 2 members from Japan. So we're pretty international. And we represent artists who have a practice in ceramics, in sculpture, in caustics, in fine art painting, printmaking, and 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional, and we love everything. So we have one solo show for each member every 18 to 24 months, which is wonderful because we keep the membership kind of low for that reason. And we usually meet in person once a month for our meetings. However, we've been Zooming, and it's an interesting process. What should I say? Not the best, but it's great that we could actually do it. So without further ado, I would like to turn the microphone over to our artist of honor today, Phyllis Chillingworth, and she will explain to you her 3-year journey of making this extraordinary work of 36 or 38 paintings, small ones, big ones, all beautiful in 3 different disciplines. She works in oils and watercolor and also in egg tempera, which is, I think she'll probably talk to you a little bit about that because that's pretty interesting. So Phyllis?
Okay, well, Ronnie, thank you for all you do. I mean, you really keep the boat afloat. You have a very warm heart, and thank you so much. So it's wonderful to see everybody. And in a way, we can't see each other in person, but the scope is broad. So many different people can come on board. So I thought, as a way of trying to pretend like I'm in the gallery and you're coming in and I'm going to offer you a drink and the doors are open, and I had a little video made that Mark Phillips made for me, as if we're coming to the building, we're walking in the door. You'll just have to imagine the drinks and we'll walk around and get a sense as if you have entered the gallery and moved around it. And then after that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a journey with slideshow of the brochure I created to kind of bring you into it and go through it. And then we'll ask questions, at the end. So I think Martha's our navigator. And what you're going to see now is sort of as if you're going to come into the gallery and see the show. Let the show go on. Martha, you're on. Martha's there.
Hold on 1 second. Let
Oh,
me
in
get-
just 1 second, you're going to be seeing a video as if you're coming to the building and you're coming in and get a sense of the space. We're right in Chelsea between 10th and 11th on 28th Street.
Hi, welcome to Atlantic Gallery. I'm Phyllis Chillingworth, and my show is called Cosmos, A Personal Journey. So I know a lot of you can't be here in person, so I'd like to give you a look around. We're going to start here with the title of the show and childhood picture, where I got the love of the sea and sand in my blood. And as we travel through here, you see the detail of the water mixing with the shells, and of course a childhood memory arriving in Cape Cod with my mother and brother. As we round the bend here, you'll see the person hanging the show created stories where he grouped paintings together in ways that surprised me. So you're really seeing a mix of watercolor and egg tempera. And over on the left, there's all this whole section that has to do with round shapes and fruit and spring. Cosmos, the name of the show, is a wonderful light in Cape Cod. There's just nothing quite like it. And then he grouped these, which is quite interesting. The exotic leaves and the red go together with the red of the monastery across the Hudson on the right. And this whole section coming up has to do with water. And there's a section here which is full of flowers. And you see how the color in the flowers connects with the red and the watercolor. And he put this together with a little painting called Discovery. And don't we all hope to discover something new? So here we are. We're going to end at the beginning of the show with Winding Road. And I guess a road symbolic of possibilities and mystery. And I hope you all will get a sense of a new road yourself by seeing the work.
Bravo.
Thank you. So
Very
we're going
nice.
to take a look at a brochure that I designed and kind of go through it and tell you a little bit about the journey. We're just waiting now for the images to come up, and the pretty good quality images, I think, that Martha can actually zoom in on some of the detail. And after I do that, we're going to have a couple of people ask questions, which will be kind of wonderful. So we're just waiting for the images.
Ready.
You ready? Okay. Welcome to Cape Cod. I spent a lot of summers here. We only went up a few weeks every summer, rented a little cottage, not this one, but very simple one. And this is the cover of the brochure. And so I'm going to take you on a little journey. Should I turn the pages, or do you want to turn them? You go ahead, Martha. So the intro of the book talks about being a very young child and sitting in the sand and just holding shells and pushing wood boats around, and the love of the sand and sea is in my blood, and that's why I'm sure I'm in Montauk. And it says right here, there are moments that's really surprised me and influenced me, and I wanted to paint a picture of them. One is the light in Cape Cod is really pretty profound, and I think it connects with my soul. On the right is oil painting, very out in Montauk, just sort of a tangerine sunset with the ocean and texture, quite abstract in a way. Okay, Martha. This tells a little bit of a story of the concept of arrival. You probably all have arrived somewhere at some point and had some overwhelming joy. And we're in this green Pontiac, and my brother and my mother and me were arriving. Dad for sure took the picture. He always loved photography. And just arriving at this little place, so simple. And on the left, I've got a wood boat in my hand, a jetty's behind me, and my father taught me to swim here. He taught me so many things. He was very artistic. And on the left actually is a snapshot of the real photograph. So the painting on the right isn't a realistic, it's sort of more symbolic. It's an egg tempera painting, which allows you to be more surreal, just to capture the moment. So we're ready to continue on. It sort of sets you up. The painting on the right is kind of symbolic because roads offer you possibilities. Where are you going? What's around the corner? In this case, I'm up in Bennington, Vermont. There was a women's criminal justice program going on there. And at a certain point, I was in the car and I was riding the hills of Bennington. And you see the mountains in the distance. I love to be in a car and on a road I've never been on. I often get lost. Doesn't matter. And there's a song, She Never Could Resist a Winding Road. It's a beautiful melody by Richard Thompson. I could almost hear it. It was a little bit gray day. I parked on the side of this road. And for a moment, the sun came out and it lit up these apple orchards. And I didn't see apple orchards. I saw stripes. And I stood in the middle of the road carefully with a camera. And I said, I have to paint an interpretation of this moment. And that's how a lot of the paintings come. They're more experiences. And I thought it was fitting to put some apples. That's a little egg tempera painting on gessoed board on the left. And it's a very ancient technique. It was before oil painting was created. It uses egg and actually used distilled water and Heineken beer, one for me, one for the pot, and then a little bit of lavender. And I like painting in an ancient technique, but in a modern way. So I think we can move on to the next spread. So you're seeing different mediums on purpose put together. Now, on the left is an egg tempera painting. And in this case, I fell in love with a poster at a book fair of a grapefruit and said College Heights orange. And I put the poster like on fabric, and I put objects that I had in the house, like a soapstone from Africa. One of my clients was caviar client, a tin that I had collected in research. Beth probably remembers some of those projects we had. And this is a bell that's solid, heavy brass. When dinner's ready, hit that. And that's from Edinburgh, Scotland, and espresso. So these little objects found in the house, put on pattern against a poster. I like it. It's called Imagine. And in a way, it's the most inventive painting because you don't know, what are you doing here? What is the large spoon? What is a grapefruit? All that's fine. I think egg tempera allows you to have a little bit of mystery, a little bit of surrealism. On the right, this is a snapshot, right? I'm sitting on 14th Street looking south right now. And this is exactly a snapshot of my view. And the buildings are low and you can see pretty far down towards the village, even the blue lights. When they do the 9/11, you can see the lights. Now, these are water towers, but yeah, Martha, come in close on this. You almost create different neighborhoods. You can kind of create playful shapes and colors out of just this sort of, city color. And with egg tempera, you can have washes of solid color, and then you can have brush strokes, and then you can work over it. But I'm never adding white to my pigment, so this is really vibrancy. When you think of Bellini and Botticelli, Fra Angelico, you've got Gift of the Magi in the Met, the colors are vibrant. Now, you never get this with watercolor, and you wouldn't get this with oil. Some layers are just one layer, sometimes many, many layers. But the drawing really took a lot of time. The drawing with the brush, you try it. It's really challenging, but you're looking and seeing and you're connecting. And then you paint looser, you interpret, you create. And then when I start, it's as if I want to capture something I see. After a while, I shift to another foot and I'm not so connected with what I saw, but what am I going to do to make the painting interesting? What's the painting going to be? What's the viewer going to imagine in it? So I step off of reality, but everything I do comes from some life, moves here. There's a certain craving for flatness these days in art. And I've always liked, Milton Avery, and I'm a graphic designer, really starting from graphic design position. And on the left, it was up in Great Barrington, Vermont, Great Barrington, Massachusetts. It was white hills, crispy, startling cold day. And I rode up this road, and the light was going, and the shadows were so strong. There were hills and many of these trees. But again, I always called me the crop artist. I just saw it as a certain image, and I said, I've got to paint that. That's an oil, that's pounding, that's strong, many layers, probably 5 months, probably for these oil paintings to kind of evolve. The drawing took the longest. Now the right is probably a couple hour loose little watercolor done as Mimi likes to do, paint right outside in the elements. It's a very loose watercolor, and I'm playing with colors that vibrate with colors that kind of shimmer. And this is out in Montauk, and just the way the bay is and the light is, and it's just 6 inches. And the one on the left is a very large, well, large for me, it's 32 inches. So I like the juxtaposition of color. And I think we can turn the page. Yeah, come in a little bit. You can see I'm playing with some pigments that have some fluorescent in the watercolor. I'm kind of playing with how color affects color. It comes from life, but it's, to me, abstract. You could turn this upside down, would be fine. Might be better. So the house in Montauk is on the lake, Fort Pond. Beyond is the bay. Here you're looking at shad trees. They're all curvy and wiggly, like dancing. The Native Americans called them arrowwood trees because the branches could be made into arrows because the branches are strong and straight, the little branches. And so this was just at the houses on the land is on the lake, and that's all movement. On the right, this has a little personal story. I never met my grandfather. Some of my relatives on his side are today on the screen. It's amazing to me. My grandfather, Phyllis Chillingworth, was a country doctor, and then he became, in the end of his life, head of pharmacology at Tufts. And I never met him, but he was a great storyteller and quite a character. I have his apothecary jars. 1, 2, 3 are his actual apothecary jars, and a bottle from Italy. And I put it together with a sea grape leaf in the background. I love these tropical leaves with a pattern. I love Matisse fabric. And I just like now this is egg tempera. So you're able to create, look at the surfaces. You can almost look through the glass at the sea grape and then come forward. There's illusion. So you want to leave a lot of mystery if you can in a painting, in a way, the viewer kind of trying to figure it out. They might not figure it out or see it differently. And this, fortunately, has found a home. This painting is going to be in the hills of Verona, New Jersey. Very good friend. But anyway, that's that one. This is on the right. It's called Beyond. And I think it was Emerson always liked horizons. And this is Fort Pond Bay, where the house is on Fort Pond Lake, rather. And then this is a road with a couple trees. And then the beyond is the bay itself. And then it faces west. So this was just a very dramatic sunset that wanted to be very big. So it's an interpretation of a moment. There's the moment, and then there's the painting. But always, I think, in the paintings is the energy of gesture. So the handwork, you can feel it. It's always, nothing is hidden from the process. It all starts and keeps building up. And I don't know what quotes I put here, but you can kind of get the idea, the importance of a horizon. We're never tired so long as we can see far enough. Live in the sunshine, swim the sea, and drink the wild air. And I think, it feeds my soul. It fuels my brushes. And on the left is the Atlantic Ocean out in Montauk. Okay. Okay, to the right is looking out. It's painted a matter of hours, pretty quickly. It's pretty large, very loose, water, and I'm probably looking over the shad trees to some land beyond and the bay beyond that. So every stroke shows. You make a mess or a puddle, that's it. But it is paper, so you can start again. How different this is than the oils. It's very airy and there's a lot of white coming through. It's just a moment of freshness out in the elements. The one on the left is painted from a large still life of flowers that was in front of me. Actually, a group of us artists were gathered around this and painting it from different directions. This is one of my first egg tempera paintings. I made gesso. I gessoed the arches paper. It's like plaster. And then I made bottles of this solution I mentioned with egg and powder, which binds it together. It needs the lithium in the egg yolk to hold it together. So you're seeing every brush stroke. You're seeing layer over layer over layer until it just feels like it's done. But these were hung together in the gallery because they connected. And so we mixed up the mediums, more about narratives, little stories within the gallery. Okay. A story again on the right. This is called Sugar Maples. I was up in northern Vermont, walking the hills at late afternoon, friends and family just walking along. And off to the left in these hills was a grove of trees. I have learned later they were sugar maple trees. I didn't see the grove of sugar maple trees. What I saw knocked my socks off. I just saw, my goodness, 5 vertical stripes of blues, different blues, blue greens, with a flutter of blossoms or leaves and kind of pink going over and behind. And I just took a snapshot. I always have my camera, I think it's attached to my hand, a snapshot of it. I don't usually paint something like this, but I knew when I saw it, it moved me to say, I have to paint this. When I started to paint it, I was into the branches and the trees and the drawing of it. After a while, I left that because you've left the forest, all you have left is the painting. So you have to make, painting work as a painting. And you can see all the strokes and the layers and the gestures. So you can see, the process. I don't try to make anything perfect. You want to keep a certain energy of the stroke, which I think does add the power to any painting, to have a hand. There isn't much done today where it's actually the hand is involved as it is directly in painting. On the left is, again, a contrast. This is a little egg tempera painting. I think it's like 5 by 7, gessoed on a board, working directly from fruit in front of me. I didn't put many colors on the background. I left it loose and fresh. And I just like the way the colors affect colors and bounce into each other. So I say they're more experiences than paintings. Okay. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I see light that feels iridescent, I get really affected. And I look out sometimes, this is a view from my deck over Fort Pond, over to the bay, and dark cloud. And it was like I couldn't believe the color. And so this is a loose watercolor. I think I've painted this many times. I think Kathy, who's on the screen, has one of these types of paintings, but it's always different. And you try to capture that. And this is a juxtaposed on the left are moon snails. I have a bowl of these and they were out in the sunlight. And at just that moment, the way the light hit them and all these curves, which kind of represent growth and spirals and I don't know. So this was a challenge to paint since it's only 5 by 7. But I thought the colors of this and the colors of the sunset, worked well together. And someone is going to own this painting and it's going to go back to the sea, to a person that lives near the water. So I think that's kind of fun. We're almost at the end. This spread on the left is one of my favorite watercolors, I think, only because it's so minimal. It's very minimal. It's just the way the sky connects with the water and the layers of colors and how color affects color. And you're seeing the hand, you're seeing the stroke through everything. So it's very minimal. It's almost like air. It's like fresh air. On the left, I don't know if any of you are old enough to know the song by Otis Redding. It's called Dock of the Bay. And I was sitting on the dock of the bay, the Shinnecock Canal, because we rented the house. And there was a plein air festival I was involved in. And I love the simple forms of the boats. There are still these simple form boats up in Cape Cod and Montauk, and probably up where you are, Mimi, even on the lake. There are these simple form boats. So this is painted just like my great Aunt Marnie painted her whole life. And she painted mostly, I think, from plein air. So but again, being graphic, I didn't want to paint the whole harbor and the boat and the fishing. It was just like zoom, crop, boom, that's it. So, but it was really the light. It was the light and the color sensation is why I painted these all together. If there's not a spark of something like that, I can't paint. It doesn't, you have to have a lot of, for me, wind in my sail to put in that effort to paint. It takes a lot of looking to find what are those moments. It's pretty strong, these colors, aren't they? On the left, up in the Bronx Botanical Garden, I was sitting there having a little lunch. And again, I just looked over and I saw these velvety purple leaves, very big leaves, and these bright orange flowers. I'm sure my cousin Anne would know what they are, but or my dad's family would know what they are, but they were just these velvety leaves and these orange flowers. And this is an egg tempera painting. So you're really seeing a lot of detail and brushstroke in it. And I think what excited me, I'm thinking of Beth, who's also a graphic designer here, is the graphic elements and Mimi of the composition. I think that excited me, but I'm never painting literally what I see. I'm always trying to move it into something fresh, something different, something to surprise you perhaps, or have you see different. On the right, you're kind of familiar with what I've been talking about, but it's always different. Dramatic sunsets, and sometimes they do knock your socks off. And in this case, I was looking towards the bay. I couldn't even see the lake and the shapes. This is a small, maybe it's just even 7 inches square. And you're not really seeing the colors under the colors. And then you stop. You can't overwork it too much. So they're expressions. I think I like the way the blue vibrated with the orange, but you never know what you're going to get when you're painting. It's always a happening. Okay. On the left is kind of a fantasy landscape. And it might feel like an English landscape or something, but I like Mondrian's paintings before he had the grid, did a lot of kind of abstract work that was landscape oriented. In this case, I just love the bold, this looks not as pale as this, it's a little bit brighter than this, but the color chartreuse, and I just saw stripes, bold stripes. I think, Martha, this is like what, like 6 inches square, something very small.
12 by 12.
Yeah, framed, that's right, framed and matted, it's 12 by 12, and the artwork itself is 6. So you're working pretty little, right? Pretty loose. But there was something in the color of the chartreuse that had a little bit of an edginess to it. Someone's calling me. That's Claire. I'm sorry, I can't take it right now. So if you move to the right, you'll see another, did I do something? Let's look at, oh yeah, this is a very small painting. You saw that when we went through the gallery. And at that moment, the road looked like we're going up into the sky, which that'd be kind of fun. And so I said, well, that's like surreal. And so I kind of like surreal things that stretch your fantasy. And that's what this is. It's called Discovery. This is egg tempera painting on gessoed paper. Again, it's an ancient technique. I'm painting in a modern way, and that is kind of the excitement of working this way. It's a honeydew melon, I don't know, grapefruit, and these shapes and bowls, and the colors. Always the sensation of color vibrating, I think, is through everything. A cloud study, I call it. I may call high trauma. Yeah, the way the light was and the movement was. And now this is egg tempera. Can't quite get that effect in oil or watercolor. So I think I'm always still experimenting and finding new ways to express different emotions. This is kind of where the hotel on the right is called the Montauk, and it hasn't changed in 50, 40, 60, I don't know how many years. And it's right on the bay. It's great to eat here and have some fried clams, scallops, and watch the sunset. And this car is probably still there. So I fell in love with the simple forms and the way the light was coming. It's painted in not so much time. And then at the end, I come back with a little bit of white to give it a little bit of texture and bring it back out. On the left, I don't know if you've ever been to the Vanderbilt estate. It's on the Hudson, and you're looking across the Hudson to what they call what do they call those? The cliffs on the others, Palisades. The Palisades and a monastery. This is that the sun is going down, so the light is very different, very warm. And you've got the Catskills where I used to ski quite a bit, and this kind of melon sky. This whole painting is only 6 inches square, but I like the graphicness of it combined with the looseness of watercolor. And I think that's it for that spread. Here we have a still life. On the left, it's a detail, not the whole watercolor, of melons and apples in a bowl. It's called Offering, and playing with patterns and shapes. And the white is the white of the paper, letting every stroke, every gesture show. It's important how you put your brush down, because one is what you want to paint, but the other is you've got to turn it into a painting that has some surprise and has the energy of the hand and works as a painting. And so I thought this looked well positioned next to the one on the right, which is a very big egg tempera painting. I think I call it chili peppers, which is this bowl. I don't know if you can see this bowl, but it's one actually Jean Betancourt, who's going to ask some questions, who's a very fine painter, gave me this when she came back, I think from Mexico. And this is put together with all just kinds of things. So drawing with a brush, it's egg tempera, and putting some washes down. And you can see all the different layers. You can see a lot of white here. And then after you put a lot of layers down, you can come back with absolute white, like a titanium white, and bring back the forms, the shapes of the peppers in the bottles. So it's kind of a happening, but it's still very light and airy. Egg tempera has really a fascination about it. I'm still learning so much. We're at the end, just about. And putting together these are small, Mira Thompson said they're almost like little poems, little color studies or little moments where the sky and the water connect. And the bottom right corner is an Easter sunrise out in Montauk. It's wonderful. I go there with my neighbors, friends, and this is before the sun comes up. But you're seeing the light come through, and it's all these layers of colors and shapes. And the one above is a little bit stiffer, it's a bigger watercolor with it just kept catching the waves. And I'm trying to find a new course, always trying to find a course on the left with it. And on the right is a very loose, almost a childlike watercolor, just fresh and loose and a little, yeah. You're really coming in, it's amazing. See all the lines and puddles and colors and things. Oh, here, this is a good quote. I like this quote. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeing new landscapes, but in having new eyes. I really like that quote. I think you'd like that too. I'm talking to Barbara Hudak. She would like that. Okay. So on the left is a sort of an icon. It's icon because it's square and it's very graphic. And these round rocks are found out in Montauk. They're tumbled by the sea. And in this case, they're put together with this pink shell I found when I was swimming in the bay. This is an alabaster bowl. And at that moment, I just saw it on this blue cloth I'd gotten in Mexico, and I laid it on the deck, and the sun raked across, and it's egg tempera, and it's kind of raw looking. You're seeing all the different layers and colors. It becomes something else. So I call it kind of like an icon, sun-baked icon. Meyer Shapiro is very famous art historian, critic, and he was talking about egg tempera painting. It has ability for symbolism and to be surreal. And he says things of the physical world are often allegories of the spiritual. And I said, I like the surreal capacity. On the right, and this is the last photo, is I was down in Florida and I looked up and I saw these giant leaves. I found out later they're called sea grape leaves. I think being in the Northeast, I'm drawn to something tropical and exotic. And these leaves have red stems and they're very big, and the light was going right through the leaves. And I just saw these shapes and colors. And I learned later that they hold the dunes together. They hold the sand together with their roots. And that's the purpose that they have. And this is an egg tempera painting where I some areas I left raw, some areas I finished more. And you can kind of decide what are you going to do with it to make it different than what you actually see. And with that, I end my little journey coming in close on these leaves. And we're going to have a couple of special people ask questions. So we're going to go into that section next. Everybody take a breath. I hope that wasn't too long. I hadn't planned it. So, okay. So thank you, Jean. So first we're going to ask Alice Rose to ask some questions. Alice Rose is a guide at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and she's seen my work since my first show in 2012, probably, something like that. But so we're going to have Alice Rose be with us and ask a question or two. Alice, you're on.
Yes, I am.
Answers.
That was a great presentation, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Absolutely great.
Thank
So I'm a museum guide, and I've been a museum guide for a long time. And so I think that's probably why you asked me to ask you a question or two. And so here is my big question, Phyllis, is that when I see artists come into the museum, they are looking really, really closely at the brushwork of the artists. And I would like for you to talk a little bit about how you look at art when you go to a museum, and then also whether or not when you were doing sugar maples, you were somewhere in the back of your mind thinking about Van Gogh's apple blossom paintings.
Okay.
That's my first question. That's my big question.
Well, that first question, that's a really big question.
I know.
I'm just going to answer in a little way, is when I'm looking at art, I rarely look at all the art like one does this, because some art just doesn't move me and I just move beyond it. And so, Alice, you're asking me, I tend to go towards something that's more than a literal painting of something. It has to have another dimension to it that surprises me.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I'm drawn to that level, let's say like a Gauguin, you can move in close, and there's so much to offer there in terms of new worlds that are created. And I like to be surprised. I like to find new combinations, and I like to see something that excites the senses. And I guess, I don't know if that answers it, but I think that's what I'm drawn to. And looking close, I do like to look close, but if it doesn't capture something anyway, Alice, I don't tend to take the time to go close.
Mm-hmm.
So first, it's got to be something that draws me in, and then I love to get into it and look closer at it.
And so do you feel like in your mind, you are thinking about like when you saw these sugar maples, right? Were you trying to sort of put together the experience and other things that you've seen, or were you trying to look at it with a fresh set of eyes? Just talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, this came unexpected, right? Because I'm walking with friends in the hills and someone's
Right.
making organic kale soup for the lunch and walking along. And so this is totally unexpected. I'm not like, what am I going to find to paint? No. So when I turned, it's my eyes, Alice, I think have always been looking for something that could be different.
Mhm.
I always see differently, always have. And so I saw what could be out of these vertical blues, and I knew I had to paint something of it. Once I'm painting it, it's quite different, Alice, than what I started with.
Yes. Mhm.
It's very, very different. I think it's the image of what could be. It's almost like I'm looking at it with a lens of what I see it could be, and I snap it in my head or my camera, and then I paint that interpretation of it. It's
Yes.
transformed it into something else.
Thank you. So I just have one more question. It has to do with this painting, but also with your landscapes in general. And that is that when you are looking at a landscape and you're thinking, oh, I want to capture this and I want to paint this, how do you, because I know how other people do this, but I want to know how you look at this and say, this is as much sky as I can put in. This is as broad as I can get. I mean, help me see how you're thinking about that.
Do you mean
How you limit it, how you frame it?
Well, that's a very, very good question. I think I'm not as analytical a person as I am sort of an emotional person. I think that I feel it and I right away see sort of my composition. Now, it could be, Alice, my whole world has been graphic design, right?
Yes.
6 years of photography. Joseph Albers, I was a student of Albers, was my teacher. And always been cropping and always looking. So I think that it's very quick for me. Anyway, it comes very quickly for me to be what the composition is. And the composition to me is very important to me.
Yes.
Very important to me. And
right.
drawing is very important. And if that's not sort of right how it feels, then why continue? The painting can be loose and interpretive and so on and take you away from the drawing. But by having a concrete drawing that relates to something and then you can change it, helps a lot. But it's not an analytical thing like 1/3, 2/3. I think it's instinctual actually with me, my composition.
Maybe instinctual, but based on years and years and years of design work and photography.
Absolutely. When I was a child, I mean, always looking and always cropping, And I think that's
interesting. Great.
So
I'm gonna turn this to Jean next, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, honey. That was really wonderful. Thank you. I've enjoyed the many ways I've been visiting your show. I hope anyone who's watching who hasn't had a chance to go in person, but physically could do that you'll take that opportunity. It was really wonderful to go through it with you, One of the things I was feeling a lot while I was watching it this time, the presentation, was the feel of your mark going through space, that it felt that whole idea of discovery, that you continue that discovery and that you're holding on, the journey of each work is very obvious. There's a feeling that you were in it when you were doing it. And I really admire that about your work. The way you're so present in the world is brought into the way you're so present in your paintings. So thank you for sharing that with all of us. I'm very interested, as a lot of people here probably are too, with how the pandemic has affected your art practice. I mean, any one of us could say how our lives have been affected by this time of being shut down to, and the things. So there's two parts to the question. One is how did it influence your art practice? But then what from that would you want to hold on to after we have what if we ever have what we call normal.
Big questions.
Well, you're a big girl. You can do it.
That's Jean. I mean, Jean, God, Jean is so talented. Jean, okay, well, I was going to have this show last year.
Right.
Cosmos was going to be May. And I had printed all the materials. I had finished egg tempera painting at the Art Students League. And I came home with all my materials, and then it got shut down. The Art Center School Art Students League was shut down. And you almost got the feeling you might not be alive at the end of the week.
Mhm.
There was a feeling, if you're over 40 and over 100 pounds, over whatever, and so though I was, after all this time, I couldn't have a show, it wasn't so important, because what was important was surviving.
Mhm.
So that was a shift into, got to survive. We're in New York City, right here. And what are you going to do? So that art switched off into the survival mode. So that
Mhm.
was that part. And the part is, how did I manage it? Fortunately, I have a car, and I could get in the car, and every weekend I'd go to a different park. I just got to ask friends what park they liked. I'd go up to the Mirror in Harlem, and I'd go up and I'd do color with a friend, and I'd do color pencil painting. And so that got you looking. And with a colored pencil, you have to have gesture. You have to have every stroke showing, and you're looking and making something new out of it. So that was a huge help, because it felt safe. I could get in the car, get a lunch, go to a park. And I think that was good. Once I felt like I was going to survive, and New York was the best place to be, not many people, best doctors, everything was right here. I don't want to say smart people. That's not right. That's Cuomo. But no, what I mean is that it felt safe here, Jean.
Mhm.
People were really behaving. And so after that, I went out to Montauk now and brought the cats and friends. And it was great to be in Montauk. So then I was really out there full time, which I hadn't been before. I just go out, short amounts of time. So I think, Jean, how it affected me, I was really in nature and appreciating, appreciating even like iced tea with lemon and mint. Something so simple, really, because I think there was a shift in life. And I think reaching out towards kindness and what's important, what's not important. And so I would say there's a huge shift that way. With that.
Great. That's fascinating and lovely that you say it that way. And the other question I had was, how do you decide when you're looking at a subject and you think, this is what I want to paint? What are the factors that go into your decision to do watercolor or oil or egg tempera, which I think is becoming your predominant medium, by the way?
Oh, I do. Oh, the egg tempera.
Yeah, it's beginning to look like that.
Oh, thank you. Well, good to know that. It's the most challenging, extremely challenging, but I never got stopped from that. Okay, so oil painting is very demanding for me. It takes me almost 5 months or so to paint a painting. So I think I have to, like moments like the apple orchard or the road, sugar maples, or that dramatic snow scene, those were so powerful a moment and so powerful graphic image in my mind is what it could be. I said, that's going to be oil, because I need the strength. The color, the power of that medium. Out in the elements, it's air and wind, and you're breathing, and seagulls, and Emerson is never far behind me, and Whitman, and all those beautiful Thoreau. So there's an airiness and a freshness that you can just express yourself in light and air. So it's more like, gee, weather's beautiful. Let's go out somewhere and find a spot like Mimi does up there in Wisconsin by the lake, and go and sketch and draw. So then you're in a period of that. That's what's going on, watercolor. Egg tempera. I have one studio. It's in Montauk. It's 1/4 of the house. You can never mix an oil painting studio with an egg tempera. So egg tempera is powdered sienna and malachite and turquoise, and you can never mix the mediums. So when I'm working in egg tempera, all the oil is away. Once I mixed it up, what a mess. So, so you have to say, I'm going to do egg tempera painting,
right?
And I'm going to order these gessoed birch boards.
Mhm.
And I've learned 2 ways to paint, one with ochre, which is where you never add white to the pigment, so it's very intense. But everything shows, you know, and so when you have these big birch boards, and I have 5 of the big birch boards and 7 small ones, that's a lot to be working on.
Mhm.
And when I had those under cover, under a wrap, so to speak, I cleared out everything and I said oil painting, and I did the oil painting. So that's kind of how it works.
That's interesting. Good. Thank you so much.
And Dean, can I just for a second ask you, because you're such a wonderful painter and you paint in such different ways and printmaker. How do you decide when you see something, whether it's going to be a print, an oil painting, charcoal, what watercolor?
I go in periods. Like I haven't oil painted in 2 years, but I found an older work I want to fix for someone and work on some more. So now when I go to my studio in Long Island, I'm going to do exactly what you said, clear out everything else, bring out the oil paints. So it does go in periods. And recently I've been doing a lot of layering of watercolor and drawing. So that's the materials that are out in my studio today.
I like when I see your work, I see your sense of your hand.
I'm glad you feel that. That's good. Yeah.
And I look for that. In fact, Alice said, what do you look for? I go very close, Alice, and I do look for the spirit of the person or the energy of the gesture or something that connects you to life.
Right, right.
I mean, I understand abstract. I come from abstract. I am abstract, probably up here, but I like something that connects with real life. And
Yeah.
Formed.
Yeah. Well, and that's in conclusion for my part here. That's what I love about your work and always have, is that I can see you holding on to some excitement that you had when you first thought of what you were going to paint, that you really hold it, that energy through your mark, through your choices, and that freshness that someone mentioned early on just about your personality. Mira did, and your presence is in your work. And for that, you should be very grateful that the gods have granted you this way of living your life.
Well, I'm very grateful, you know, to friends, and very grateful for time, you know, to be creative. And, you know, just I think this whole pandemic, it's just glad to be alive today. I mean, it's just today.
Here together, all of us.
Not the small things. I mean, just let it go. So it broke. So it's okay. It's okay. What's important? What's not important?
Right.
You're important, and all these friends are important. And I'm just very, very grateful for, I would say the word is connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see what other people have to ask you.
Yeah. Would anybody, you can ask any question. If people are still awake here. Would anybody like to ask a question? Hello. Anybody calling out there? Oh, Mira.
Hi, Phyllis.
Hi.
This is such a joy that you have put this together, and I have to say to everyone that I walked up to see Phyllis's show. I guess it was Thursday, and I was just absolutely bowled over by how the entire show, with its diversity and yet its unity, really presents the viewer with a transporting experience. So for those of you who haven't had the chance to actually go to the gallery and see Phyllis's work, I would encourage you to do that. So many of my questions have already been asked and answered. And Phyllis, you know, as usual, you are so forthcoming and elegant and graceful and generous in the way you talk about your work and share your work. I would like to have you talk, you know, Phyllis and I have a long, intimate, strong working relationship. She and I showed together, I guess was it 4 times, Phyllis? It was really, and I have to say that I relied on Phyllis and her, she creates this kind of vortex of calm around her. I don't know how she does it, But I relied on that, and I also relied on the way she is so inspiring in her willingness to be exploratory, her willingness to take on big risks. So two things I'd like to say. I'd like to encourage everyone who hasn't seen the show in the gallery before to go and see the show, because the range of talent, the range of mastery that you can see in Phyllis's work, from the watercolors to the egg tempers to the oils, it is really impressive. And I think Phyllis sometimes downplays her tremendous gifts, and also, may I say, her discipline. I don't know of anybody else who has the kind of work ethic, the kind of industry, the kind of humility, the kind of, yes, I would say discipline that Phyllis has as an artist. And that leads me to the question, Phyllis, that I would like to ask, which is, as we look at your work in terms of your drawing, your graphic design, your watercolors, your oils, your egg tempers, two questions. What would you say is your through story that if you had to stand back and look at all of your work and say, this is what is unmistakably me about these works? So that's one question. And I think closely related is, if you were guiding a young person who wanted to be an artist or to give their life to the visual arts as you have, what would your advice be? What would you say? All right, this is what you need to learn. This is what you need to hold on to. So those two, I think those questions are related, but
Leave it to Mira. Leave it to Mira to ask these challenging questions. Good for you, Mira.
Good for you, Phyllis.
Well, thanks. Well, no, they're excellent. They're excellent. Okay. So the first one, wow, because you can see I'm kind of all over the place, but yet I guess, Mira, I would say, the sensation of color.
Yes.
Sensation of color happening, not just color. Sensation of color happening with light. That's major. The second river of thought going through is the energy of gesture, the energy of a person expressing, the mark, the drawing, that personal connection. Probably the third, and Beth, you might relate to this, my good friend and so talented designer, is composition. I'm always I just look for strong composition, or composition that I relate to. So I guess if you look for color, sensation, expression, and boldness of composition.
Yes.
I guess that's my river, I guess. I have no idea where the river's going. I have no idea what my next group will be, but that's okay not to know. It's kind of fun, not to know. The other question, okay, well, I got to go to a junior school at a graduation and speak to all these young junior high school students that were graduating from an art school. It was so nice to be invited to speak to their at their graduation. I didn't know quite what to say, but it made me think of that, Mira. And we're torn between, am I going to be good in math? Have I got to go to English? I can't do art. What's going to be how am I going to make money? And they all seem to be quite torn, Mira, at a very young age, what they were going to be. And I never felt that young. I felt that you could play basketball, you could draw, and you could work hard in math. You could do academics. So I think I'm just sort of change the subject a little bit, but I was talking about the importance of both roads, of many roads. Keep up your learning and your academic, and it doesn't mean you can't do your art too, because I think the academic I had helped me get scholarships I got all the way through. They helped, but I didn't look for that, but it helped me in art. Now for art, that river that you're asking about, I think it's important that they really jump in and experiment like a swimmer. I'm a swimmer. Jump in the deep end and swim like mad. Get involved. Throw yourself in. Take risks. I went to a very experimental design school in Chicago, the Bauhaus School, which is the Institute of Design. We experimented, as Nemi's here and others, with every aspect of art. I really think you have to jump in and try this. Now, you may find this is half the class dropped out, Mira, because they don't like that intensity, right? You know,
Right.
and then you'll find out you really like it or you really don't like it, which is either way is okay. But there's many ways to go to keep your branches and roads open and explore. Don't limit it too early. You know, am I this or am I that? I don't like labels anyway. I find they're constricting.
Right, absolutely.
What would you say? I mean, you're a wonderful teacher. What would you answer that?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I am a Luddite, a dinosaur, not great with technology. So I'm looking at the screen here. I think curiosity is, if we had to say, all right, what are the characteristics of someone who is going to make the sacrifice of committing themselves to a life of art? I would say the curiosity, experimentation, absolutely, as you say, discipline, the ability to just keep working, stay at it. I was talking to a young man recently who is training to become a street photographer. And he was telling me that, because of COVID, his practice has been limited, and that he found that the longer he was away from what he was doing, the more he had doubts, the more he felt that he was a fraud or maybe didn't know what he was doing. And my first impulse was to say to him, well, that doubt, that insecurity is what you sign up for when you decide to be an artist, that you're constantly questioning not only the world and what you see, but you're questioning your interpretation, your response, and the success of that. And I think one of the most difficult things about learning to be an artist is how do you evaluate your work? Because I think the response of the viewer to your work is always going to be a mystery. And I think that's part of what I find so thrilling, so wonderful, so heartwarming about your work, is that I feel as if in everything you do, you take that into account. You invite the viewer in. There is a reciprocity there. It's almost as if you're saying, here, let me show you, as you've said so many times, my journey, and let me offer you a hand. Let me take you with me. And I find that just powerfully engaging. That's, for me, when I look at any work of art, I want to see and feel the presence of the artist. I want to see the deliberation. I want to see the struggle. I want to see the vision. And I think that's one of the things I see in your work.
Anybody else, and I'll ask any question, please just jump in.
Phyllis, it's Lisa. It was such a beautiful, beautiful show. And while we were watching, actually, Jackson went into the other room to re-review some of your other works that are hanging on our wall. I was wondering, do you have any single painting out of the entire collection that is either especially close to your heart, or is the one that will always kind of bring you back to the Cosmos experience?
Well, this is my fifth solo show since I left my agency. And I would say, Lisa, from every show, group of work, there's always a painting or two that one of them is Roses. It's the first one I did. It's actually out in Montauk. And I think in this show, personally, is the one called Winter Bright. It's the tree, the blue sky, and the clouds. It's very bold and very graphic. That's because I think I don't say bold and graphic, but I think I relate to that. And there's some paintings that are hard to let go of, they're hard to let go of. But you realize that you have the ability to create new paintings, and it's very important to let go, to let them go to another place. Like Jubilance is going to your house, and it helped women, it helped Housing Plus, right, with their gala as a graphic. And so if you can create things that get launched into other spaces for other people, I think that's wonderful. Hey, hi, nice to see you. They're up in Connecticut.
Say hi.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Phyllis.
Nice, thanks. Any other questions? Mimi, do you have any questions? Mimi?
Keep sketchbooks. Are those some sketchbooks behind you?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Mimi. We're very spontaneous, you and I, right? Yeah. Mimi is my best friend, and oh, this is a blank one. That was really good, wasn't it, Phil? Yeah. So I mean, that little egg tempera painting started as a sketch. Let me just see. Hopefully, it's not empty. Oh yeah. Here I was out in Brighton Beach. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And it was the end of the day, and I just liked all the details, and everything was dancing. And I know, Mimi, you keep a sketchbook all the time, right? Let me go the other way.
For a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, this is, during the COVID, I would get in the car and go down to Battery Park City in Manhattan, where I used to live, and just sit on the bench and sketch. Like sometimes you leave something undone, like this tree, just let it be light. So I don't know if I have any other paintings here, but oh yeah, sometimes you just I was under a bridge, and I liked the structure of the bridge, and I was looking up at it. I mean, it didn't become a painting, but Mimi, you keep a sketchbook, right? All the time. I'll just show you this last one. This is the bridge. I don't know, remember where it is, but I was sitting under it and did it in color. I love colored pencils. They're quick, they're easy, they're not messy. And then some of them might become a painting. And Mimi, you use sketchbooks, right? Are they important to you, right?
Oh, definitely. I've been away from it for a couple of months, but definitely going to get back to make it a daily practice. It's so important.
Wonderful.
Practice, yeah.
Wonderful. Happy. Any other questions? I see Beth Meredith and Georgia.
Phyllis, Ann Fremberg here.
Hi, Ann. Hi. I recognize you.
I just want to say how wonderful it is to have known you as what were we, youngsters in grade school or high school, and to see how far you've come, and I love your work. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you, Ann. You went to Camp Lake Ho just up the Loyalsock Creek too, didn't you?
Absolutely. We had a blast.
Those early
we in the Pioneer Unit.
Those early experiences, I mean, swimming in the Loyalsock, connecting to the pines, all of that with all of us, right? They're like part of us. And like, we don't even know sometimes where they come from,
I know.
I went back to Camp Lake Ho just and walked the camp with Connie McMichael, and I had a bear experience. It turned out okay, but sometime we'll tell the story. Anyway, we're probably getting ready to end, but Georgia, do you have any questions? No questions, okay. Georgia's related to great aunt Marnie and my grandmother. I'll just tell you, I don't know if I told you the story, but when I was a little girl, I would drive with my grandmother. Did I tell you the story? And I'd say, Granny, where do you think that road goes? Did I mention that? And she would say, let's just go see Phyllis Ann. And so I think, and on, it took us a long time to get places, but I think that sense of looking and discovery is in all of us, and we just have to like release it.
I have
Jesse,
I have
yeah.
a comment.
Any question from Jesse, from anybody left here?
I have a quick question about, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I
I
was
have
just going to ask Phyllis, when you go out, you have a sketchbook with you. Is it colored pencils that you keep in your pocket, or?
Okay, I have.
How do you go about it?
Okay, I like Prismacolors, but I use all different brands because you get different colors with different brands, right? So I go out with maybe 2 packets. One is all the warm colors and all the cool colors, and maybe another with the grays and the and so when I'm out there, if I feel like I want warm, I can just dig into that package. So I just put all the pencils organized that way. So when I'm in a park bench, I can just reach into the pocket of the warms or the cools, right? Or the grays. And sketch pad this is the sketch pad size I use. 6 by 8 inches is a really good size for me. And but each person's individual.
So you're going out with the notion that I'm going out to sketch.
Yes, I'll get in the car. I usually go with a friend, go to a park, have a lunch, sit. You got to be moved by something. Find a tree, find a hill, something like that. My Aunt Marnie used to do, as a little girl, she said, Phyllis, let's look out the window. Let's sketch this. Let's sketch that. So like I was always looking and always sketching. But colored pencils, they're not intimidating, right? They're not going to spill and make a mess, and you can turn the page, right? So
you don't have to carry water.
yeah, and I'm glad you're watercoloring. That's wonderful. Any other questions? I think we're getting near the end, or we've passed the end, maybe. Marge. You have to unmute. Marge? Oh, Marge, you have to unmute. I can't hear.
Unmute. Okay, now you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I taught kindergarten for most of my working life, and I always wanted to try painting, but I was always afraid. In teaching kindergarten, you always got a couple of kids that would be able to draw anything. And there was one little boy who drew a boat that was sinking and a helicopter coming with a ladder coming down to rescue whoever is sinking. And I said, how can you draw so well? Well, here was his answer. You just think your thought and then you draw your think.
Excellent. I like that.
When I started taking some little classes, the teacher said, it's only a piece of paper, just have fun. So I thought that was good advice from both of them.
It's wonderful, Marge. And I see that you're drawing up at Silver Bay.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
That's my favorite place to paint.
Wonderful.
Right.
That's a place for you to draw. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Any other, Jesse, do you have any questions? Jess went to IIT with me in Chicago. He's much younger. Are you here, Jess?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been wonderful. Hearing you voice over the thought process and the feeling process behind your paintings, especially around the color, was powerful. My question for you is a bit technical. I'm new to egg tempera. Can you tell me a little bit about the pigments themselves and how do the materials that you use resonate with you somehow?
Well, what resonates first is the results of the technique because it's challenging. So the results are fascinating and mysterious and has a lot of qualities that you can't get in oil. So that's what the first. And then I had a teacher that studied with somebody that learned it way, way back. So technique, I work 2 ways. You can work with a watercolor or you can work with powders. If you work with powders, you have to be very careful, right? You're working with sienna and turquoise and all the different grains and titanium white, and powder can get in the air. So you have to know how to manage that very well. And you mix the powder with this egg solution, which is 1/3 egg yolk, 1/3 distilled water, and 1/3 like a Heineken beer or something to preserve it with a little ginger, with a little clove or lavender. And once the pigment is in that, it's safe. It's not going to be dangerous, right? It's in a solution. And you can then add more color to it, the color powder. that you want to use. So you can mix several colors together and work that way. There's another way to work that I work at home that's very, very safe. You work with watercolor tubes. So you can take your egg solution I mentioned, and egg helps bind the pigment together. That's why the egg has lithium in it. And you add the tube of watercolor to it and you mix it. And that will actually have the same effect. You can work with a wash, or you can work with brush stroke. Very, very dry. You have to have your brush very, very dry. I took a class at the Art Students League, so I learned one kind of technique, but then I studied with an Ofer Shemesh, a fantastic teacher that studied the way the Russians, the way Bellini and Botticelli, and they never mix the white with the color because they want to have the luminosity of color coming through color. It's getting too technical, but I would take a course from somebody. That's what I would do.
Thank you.
Yeah. And is there any other question that anybody has? Just raise your hand. We're about probably to close. Martha, what do you think? I think.
Just about.
Okay. Any other question? Just raise your hand about anything. Life. Okay. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. Hey, there's Charlie. Oh, my good friend Carolyn Lamont's brother, Charlie. Look at that, Beth, from California. Unbelievable to see people, that I haven't seen in 2-3 years. Annie Sessler. Gee, oh my God, I'm just seeing names. I'm not seeing anybody because I'm talking, but I think this is a good point to mention. This is the last week of my show. So I welcome anybody to come in next week between 12 noon and 6 at night. And if you want to see it earlier or later, let me know. I have the key. Because when you see work up close, it's very different than seeing a Zoom image. So I welcome anybody, to do that. The last thing I want to say is I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody at the gallery and Ronnie and Mira, and Martha, who's our navigator. I want to give thanks to my friends. Without my friends telling me to leave my agency, I had a difficult business partner and not much money and no time to paint. And they said, jump shipped in 2009, and grateful. Grateful for my family, for my father who encouraged aesthetics and always looked for beauty. And I'm very grateful for my teacher, Ofra, and just really to be alive. And I thank you for getting together very much. It was fabulous.
Very nice.
Thank you. And I hope you have a nice rest of the day and enjoy all of your own journeys that you're all on. And you're important to me. I mean, you're my connections, to life. So I'm very grateful. Hi, Jean, and goodbye, Barbara. And so many people have helped me and in my life. And Oriana, who is a very talented egg tempera painting. I can't see their faces, but I think that's all. And Martha will just say goodbye, and I'll be in the gallery. Contact me, and I'll be there to walk you through anything. And keep drawing.
Fabulous show, Phyllis.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Thank you. Who was that?
Hayne.
Who is it?
Hayne.
Hayne, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
So enjoy the rest of the day, and I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm glad I did it.
Very good.